When the point contact cannon brace was announced, I was really excited. And when it released, I was supremely disappointed, like almost everyone else. Thankfully, Uncle Bungie heard our prayers and graced us with a massive buff to this incredibly cool looking exotic. I hear you asking, how exactly did they buff this exotic? Well, dear viewer, the change reads as follows. Lightning strikes now jolt targets. Increase PvE damage per lightning bolt from 50 to 200. Being amplified now increases the damage of the lightning strikes by 50% instead of extending their range. Adding on Jolt along with a hefty 400% damage buff to the PvE lightning damage seems really nice on paper, but what do I think of it now that I've gotten the opportunity to use it? It's easily my favorite Arc exotic for Titan, which is saying something since there's like 6 different exotics that work wonders for Arc Titan. Going into testing, I was initially a little skeptical given the amount of thunderclaps you can output with Insurmountable Skullfort and the damage you can give it with Heart of Inmost Light. I was worried it wouldn't find a place in my loadouts since I do really love the way it looks, and we all know the true endgame of Destiny 2 is the fashion game. Despite my doubts, Point Contact Cannon Brace blew me away from the moment I threw a thunderclap into a group of enemies. Jolts and sparks firing, combined with streaks of lightning connecting in every direction surrounding me as the entire wave of enemies evaporated was a fucking magical experience. Every time I vaporize a group of enemies, I have to just sit back and laugh at the sheer destruction available to me at the press of a button. I genuinely think Point Contact is both the most fun and most powerful exotic in the arsenal of an Arc Titan at the time of making this video. Heart of Inmost Light is amazing, but now not as broken as before and more in line with the other exotics. Insurmountable Skullfort is also amazing at throwing out an infinite amount of thunderclaps, but you don't have the damage output that you can get with the Cannon Brace or Heart of Inmost Light. Kyrus of the Falling Star is maybe the one exotic I would run over Point Contact, but that is also conditional on if we really need to nuke a boss or maximize DPS in a day 1 setting or something like that. Eternal Warrior is also really fun right now, but falls into the same category as Path of Burning Steps, being a niche weapon damage only exotic that you mainly only use for fun in lower to mid-range difficulty content. Severance Enclosure can be really fun, but it's just not nearly as good as Point Contact or Insurmountable Skullfort in my opinion. Armamentarium, while good for grenade-focused builds, doesn't augment your grenades any further than Touch of Thunder and only gives you the extra charge. While that's extremely useful for Storm or Pulse grenades, it doesn't pack as much of a punch, pun intended, as Thunderclap with Point Contact. Out of the options available, all of which are valid and good options, I personally feel that if you like Thunderclap, then you should be using the Point Contact Cannon Brace. Combine that with a Volt Shot arc weapon, Pugilist Swashbuckler combo weapon, or Monte Carlo, and you have a rough build that can tear through almost anything you put in front of it. For me, it's also been holding up in higher difficulty content. It's definitely not as face-meltingly potent, but it still is really good for mopping up minor and major enemies, even when you don't charge it up for very long. The jolt from the lightning strikes is incredibly useful, and being able to apply that around yourself with your melee makes Point Contact Cannon Brace a really good tool that can also help you stun champions under the right circumstances. That's the nice thing about it too. You can really use a variety of options as far as weapons go since you already have one champion type covered by your melee and possibly your grenade ability. And being able to keep an overload locked down with both of your main abilities is a very underrated aspect of this exotic. In Season 21 specifically, having access to Thunderous Retort and Shock and Awe makes Arc Titan a lethal death-dealing machine that can lock down entire rooms of enemies with jolts and lightning strikes. Combining that with Arc Surge and armor mods turns the potency up to 11 and makes Arc Titan feel like you're wielding a storm against the enemies in the game. This is the most fun I've ever had playing Arc Titan, and I remember the Storm Grenade meta from a couple seasons ago. If you don't like it, you do have a good amount of options to fall back on in regards to Arc Titan. As for the fashion, you can make some really amazing looking Titan sets with this armor piece. I love messing around and trying to find armor combos that mesh well with the exotic since it looks so good on its own. What do you guys think of Point Contact Cannon Brace since the buff? Let me know in the comment section below and like the video if you agree with me. Thank you guys so much for watching. My name is KaylieTheLazy. Take care, Guardians.